There's a tree.
Life's good.
Hey, it's Diane, and I'm your host of the Now What podcast. I am super excited to be here today interviewing one of my most favorite persons, Rhoena Johnson. Rhoena is going to be sharing her story today on her experience and finding out about herself through her Ancestry.com results. She shares this story and hopes to inspire and encourage you to embrace who you are and to seek to understand the lives of those who lived before you with compassion and love. If you've enjoyed this podcast, I ask that you share it with a friend and subscribe from wherever you're listening. Now let's get on to the show. Rhoena, thank you so much for being here today. You are one of the most fascinating, warm, loving, authentic, and compassionate women I know. And you've been a longtime mentor and friend to me, and I'm so honored to share you with my audience today. So can you start by sharing with them a little bit about yourself?
I am thrilled to be here. And a little about myself is that I'm 47 and I have lots of titles like many women do. I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm an aunt, a niece, a grandmother, and I like to say a citizen of the world. So a little bit about me is I love dogs. I have a lot of them. I am married and I'm currently raising 2 grandchildren.
So we're going to talk today about Ancestry.com because we all hear about it and there's always these questions and, there's what ifs, but what was your recent experience with Ancestry.com?
So I guess to start, let me answer the question, why? Like, why did I even go to Ancestry.com? And I guess it's a kind of it's a long story a little bit, but really it was the pursuit, my search to figure out who I was. And I really wrestle and try to think about the pieces of me and which pieces are those that are embedded in me from my DNA versus those that were influenced. And so this was just another way to get to know myself better. What was my heritage? What was my background? I heard many stories growing up in my lifetime from my mother, my father, relatives, family, friends. And, this was a way to have the absolute truth, to find out who I was. So that's what started me down that path.
Right. And you identify yourself as a Black woman.
Yes, I am. I am a Black woman.
Okay.
Yes.
So I recall just, a few years into our, friendship, I asked you, are you mixed? Because it kind of felt as if, you were maybe mixed, half Black, half white, or even Mexican. Because, and the reason that it caught my attention is because I have a lot of family who's biracial. So I kind of, thought maybe you were biracial, but had you asked someone that question, I eventually got the courage to ask you and you're like, yeah, I'm Black.
So that's funny. So I'm obviously a very light-skinned Black person, but anybody that's Black or African-American in the United States, our history is a tumultuous one, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not written on paper. It wasn't recorded. We weren't even really worthy to have it recorded. And so there's a whole mystery behind that. And I also know, I was told stories growing up about my grandfather, on my mother's side. So my maternal grandfather, he had this story back to when we were slaves in North Carolina on a tobacco farm. And one of the family members had researched that and had wrote that down. And that explained how my mother's side of the family became very light-skinned. It also had a story in it that, back then when you became light-skinned, you stayed light-skinned because it was a status quo. And my mother can pass for white, so she's very light-skinned. So it was curious to know that story. On my father's side, I didn't have that. I think my father looks like your typical African-American male. Mm-hmm. But I am very light-skinned, and each of my siblings, although we look similar, we're different shades.
Okay.
And even different hair grades. And so that's, very interesting, right? Mm-hmm. To figure out, okay, what's going on? what's our mix, what's our heritage.
Right.
Yeah.
So were you scared or nervous about what you were going to find out from your results?
No, not at all. I was I was really excited. What I didn't realize is that no one else in my family had taken the test, and my decision to take the test for me to find out was unsettling for other members in my family, and I just really didn't know what that was about.
Mm-hmm. So you told them in advance, hey, I'm going to do this Ancestry.com thing.
I did. And then, and some of them I told after. I just did it. I'm waiting for my results. I can't wait to see them. And, I guess my quest and motivation to figure out the why, to understand all the mechanics is not the same as someone else's, right? Where they might say, why do you need to know this? Why is this important? Why are you doing this? I didn't even have any of those questions or red flags.
Mm-hmm. So, did you do the test that they, you hear about online or the radio, or did you go to like a service company?
So I went to Ancestry.com and I ordered the kit, and it comes to you, spit into a tube, and then you mail it off, and then about 6 weeks later, you get your results back.
Okay, good. So were you, what did you expect to find out about yourself?
So I get asked a lot if I have any type of Hispanic heritage in me. So I really expected that I was going to have some Hispanic heritage. I also expected to see some American Indian. Mm-hmm. And then anything else was up for grabs.
Yeah. Did you believe that the results would be accurate? Or did you think maybe it would be some type of scam or just, kind of nonsense?
No, I know, I think I had comfort level in the results coming back. I know also that it's a work in progress, meaning the more people that participate in this process, the more they're able to refine the results. But for the most part, I felt comfortable in that what I was going to get back was going to be accurate.
Okay. So let's go on to the big moment. What were your results? What did you find out about yourself?
I should have pulled it up. So what was shocking to me, what I recall, is that, do you need to check?
No, we're good.
Okay. So it was most shocking to me, and what I need to recall, what I recall is that I had 0 American Indian in me, and I was told, right, in our family that we had Native American. Mm-hmm. I had 0 Hispanic. I had some, Iberian Peninsula, which kind of gets into Spain, but 0 Hispanic, which I was shocked. I got to tell you, I was like, I would have bet that I had some type of Hispanic in me. But for the most part, I was white, and I was white in a large way. And I knew I was going to have some Caucasian in me, but I think I had close to 65%. And I was like, holy smokes. And I certainly had African in me as well. But I was shocked that I was so much white. And I laughed. It cracked me up.
So did it cause you to question your identity or struggle with any thoughts or perceptions of yourself when you found out that?
I wouldn't say struggle. I think one of the things, it was a lesson. What it taught me is that, let me tell you this story. Let me give you a short story. So when I went back to college as an adult, I took a marketing class. And marketing, right? We all get marketing, selling products. Thought it was going to be a piece of cake. It was a piece of cake. I got an A, I'll tell you that. But what marketing did for me, marketing knocked my socks off when I took that class. And it caused me to question, like, almost everything that I buy. Like, did I buy a Toyota because I really like Toyota? Or did I buy a Toyota because the marketing of it tricked me into buying it, right? Like, so I started questioning. So that's kind of what my DNA test was. And I give you that story because, I was raised Black. I grew up Black. I was told you have all these social norms, you have all of these rules implied upon you on what you can and can't do, what other people think about you. And so I kind of had that marketing moment again, like, okay, so if I'm 65% white and I think I'm like 23% black, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And a whole bunch of other stuff. But I was like, okay, did I live my life making choices and decisions on the 23%? What chances, what opportunities, what limitations, what are all the things that I pressed upon myself because I said maybe I couldn't, right? Or I shouldn't, so it just kind of blew the socks off that way. It caused me to go back and reanalyze the decisions I had made.
Right. So where did the 65% white come from? Did you have to then go to your mom and say, hey, help me understand this?
So I went into this with my eyes wide open and I thought it was funny. Again, I was cracking up, still trying to figure out, get to know me. I did this because I wanted to know more about me. I did not think about the ripple effect it was going to have on the rest of my family.
What was that? Explain that.
So my mom thought she was an only child.
Okay.
And my mom was raised by her father and was told that her mother had died when she was 6 years old. And so what happened, and I knew this somewhere in the back of my mind, I just forgot, right? Because my whole, again, sole driving force to do the DNA test was to get to know me more. But I do recall after I did it that it links you to other people who have completed the same test. Mm-hmm. If your DNA matches with theirs in a way that your family, so it starts, all the way from, this could be a father, a mother, a grandmother, first cousin, second cousin. So it hooks you to relatives.
Okay.
I knew that. I just think I forgot about it. I wasn't interested in that piece. Mm-hmm. So when I got my results back and I'm looking at it and I'm laughing at the different makeup, I have two ladies that are closely related. I mean, closely, like they are an aunt, a grandmother. They are close. I mean, you have that, when you look at it, you have thousands and thousands of fourth cousins, but these two ladies were really close. Mm-hmm. And so I'm looking at it and it's on my mother's side. And that started this huge wheel in motion of learning that my mother was not an only child and that her history that she thought she knew or grew up with was not the true story.
Interesting. So what was the story?
So my grandmother, I guess, my mm-hmm. maternal grandmother was a white lady from Bud Lake, New Jersey.
Okay.
And she had a relationship with my grandfather, who was a very light-skinned black man in 1940s, early 1940s. And their relationship resulted in a pregnancy. And my mom was the child born of that union. Mm-hmm. They, of course, they didn't marry. They stayed together for some period of time, and they broke up, and then she went back home to her parents, and she took my mom with her. So my mom was the second child of this lady. Her name was Virginia, mm-hmm. and she had one daughter before that. So my mother was raised at least as a baby by her mother, and then by her grandmother, right? Because her mother went to live with her mother. And I think she was there in their house probably for the first couple of years of her life. Mm-hmm. And then somewhere, I think probably around 2 or 3, her father came and picked her up and took her. And at that point, she went to live with her father. She never, as far as I know, I don't think she ever saw her mother or her mother's side of the family at that point. It was as if they never existed. So, of course, my maternal grandmother, Virginia, went on to live her life. She got married 2 more times after that. and continued to have children. So my mom was the second born, but after her, there were 5 more.
Oh, wow.
So she had a total of 6 siblings, if I think I have it right. So she was not an only child.
And she grew up her entire life thinking she was.
Yes. So this was earth-shattering to my mother, me doing the DNA results. It was, it crushed. I think it was very crushing at first. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my grandfather was married, and I'm not sure what the timeline of that is. My grandfather is not alive to ask any of these questions, but my grandfather was married, and maybe he was married when he went to get my mother to a lady named Naomi. And Naomi was the first mother, really, that my mother can recall and remember. Mm-hmm. And she passed away when my mother was 6.
Okay, got it. So, what happened when your mom found out that she had siblings, or like, what was the process for that?
So again, I was, I was guns a-blazing to figure out who I was, just thinking about me. And I immediately wrote a letter to an email to the 2 ladies. The 2 ladies turned out to be my aunts, by the way. And I wrote a letter to them introducing myself. And I think they were pretty shocked. They were like, hold on, we need to talk to some other family members. We need to figure out what's going on here, right? Mm-hmm. For my mom, it was shock. I think it was confusion. It was, I don't want to know. It was, all those things, the anger, the denial, going through those stages of grief so it was like, I don't want to know. But on the same token, she knew that I was steamrolling ahead, trying to get answers for myself. So I laugh now because she was like, I don't want to. It was overwhelming. It really was. But then every couple of days she'd call and say, okay, what else did you learn? Right?
Yeah.
But a lot of confusion, a lot of questionings. And you got to think, if you're the second child, I guess my mother was trying to figure out, why was I given away? Why was I not kept? Why were the other children kept? What was wrong with me? She didn't say that out loud, but I think that there was a lot of trying to figure out, why didn't I stay?
Right.
Yeah.
Today's episode is definitely a gem. If you enjoyed hearing about Rhoena's Ancestry DNA experience, tune back in next week to hear part 2, where Rhoena shares what happened after she discovered she wasn't Black. This is the podcast, the space where we give a platform to honor and share these voices and stories. If you like what you heard today, continue in on the conversation at nowwhatradio.com, and remember to support independent shows just like ours. Don't forget to stay up to date on the latest episodes at nowwhatradio.com, and be about that energy and share this podcast with a friend. Until next time, stay inspired.